A promising and well-designed network should always have redundant links. The redundant link will make sure the undisrupted network traffic. In switching environment, the real problem is switching loops. Honestly saying, it simply can bring down your business, it make your network completely inaccessible. This is where the fantastic protocol concept comes in, which is nothing but spanning tree protocol. It silently does a significant job. It prevents the switching loops and prevents our network from the crashing. It is a bit lengthy topic, so I am planning to split this lecture into few parts. But before learning the spanning tree protocol, I would recommend you to watch my previous video, Layer 2 Switching Fundamentals, which will help you to understand the spanning tree protocol better. This is the simple network with the redundant path in place. So with this network, from one PC to another PC, to pass the traffic, we have two different paths. But we cannot imagine this network without spanning tree protocol. It is completely a nightmare because of the switching loops. So I am going to explain what is spanning tree protocol and how it operates and how it is going to prevent the switching loops in the network. So let's get into the topic. As I mentioned in my earlier video, in layer 2 switching environment, if a device wants to communicate with another device, it needs the destination device hardware address. So in my network is really fresh and I haven't communicated with any other device. So my ARP entry is simply blank. Also, my switch has no ARP entries. It's simply blank. So I am pinging the remote PC. So I have the redundant path. Let me forward this. The switch doesn't have the MAC address details, so it simply floods this frame through the other ports. So it's simply flooded and I'm simply passing my frame. It reached the destination, getting the reply. I got the response. In my network, I didn't face any switching problem. You may ask, you told the switching will cause a huge issue, it will cripple your network. But we are not facing any issue. You are absolutely correct. The switches by default enabled with spanning tree mode, spanning tree protocol. So it simply prevents the loop by default. That is why the spanning tree protocol concept went unnoticed among the network engineers. Most of, I don't say most of, several network engineers may not aware the significant role of the spanning tree protocols. I built another network. In that network, I disabled the spanning tree, and I'll show what happens in a network if the spanning tree is not there. So in this network, I disabled the spanning tree protocol. I am trying to ping from one device to another device. I'm gonna show what's going to happen if we are trying to do some simple network activities without spanning tree. I'm simply going to ping one host in the network. I initiated. I would recommend to carefully watch this. So my switch doesn't have the entry in the MAC address table. It doesn't know where to send that particular frame. Hence, it is going to flood the frame through all the other ports. It's simply flooded. Now it reached this switch. Actually, I am pinging this one. So it has to, the frame has to reach here. Keep in mind this particular switch take a copy of the frame and also flooded via this port, and the switch received this one. Also this switch doesn't have the entry in the MAC table, so it is also going to take a copy of this frame and going to forward it to the other ports. So let's see what's going to happen. All my switches here doesn't have the MAC entries in the table, so all the switches doesn't have an idea about the destinations. I'll open this frame. This is the broadcast frame I initiated from this device with the broadcast address. It reached through this path. Again, I send the broadcast frame through this path as well as through this path to the destination. Now, this is the broadcast frame which is copied by the switch 2, and again the broadcast frame sent to this switch. Now, carefully see. Now, I got a response, but it is not the exact response. It is simply the broadcast frame that the switch forwarded. This response is also the broadcast frame. All these three devices will simply ignore the frame. Let's see now. Still the response not reached. I want to bring it to your attention. I simply initiated one ping, single ping. You can see how many frames are being transmitted in this network. Just assume a network with higher load, with multiple devices, with a huge network traffic. You can assume what will happen if we are deploying a switch without the spanning tree. It will be absolute nightmare. To prevent the looping of the frame, can we say if we break one of this link, the frame looping will be stopped? Absolutely yes. Our aim is to break this particular loop to stop the frame propagation. So it cannot be done manually. It needs to happen automatically. So this is where the guy spanning tree protocol comes in. Actually, with the spanning tree protocol, we can able to prevent this particular looping. So it is like uh, a tree. So from tree root to branch, there won't be any loops. It's a single path. That's why the name they kept like the spanning tree protocol. If spanning tree protocol is not in place, these links would have utilized exponentially. Also, the number of frames that will be processed by the end devices will be very high. It will increase the CPU utilization of the end device, and it will completely cripple the network. Here in this network, the same frame is entering into the switch through the various interfaces. So obviously, in all these switches, the MAC address table is fluctuating. It is not stable. It is completely unstable. These are all the cruel issues which pushed us to find some technology to prevent. The switches beautifully communicates among themselves, and it keeps some of the ports in blocking state and some of the ports in forwarding state. You may see this network. This network is a default network with spanning tree protocol. So in this network, we can see this port is disabled. I didn't disable this port physically or administratively, which is simply disabled by the spanning tree. So this port actually receives the frame, but it will not process the frame. It won't update the source MAC address in the switch MAC address table. It simply ignores that frame. Also, the switch will not forward any frames through that port. So the switch somehow communicated among themselves and made this switch port shut. Same as earlier, I am thinking one PC. Remember, this network is enabled with spanning tree. Now the switch copies the frame and forwards it to both the ports. As I told you, the switch receives the frame from the switch 1 through the disabled port, but it simply denies it. Gigabit Ethernet 1 is blocked by STP. The device drops the frame, so it simply drops it. It won't consider the frames entering through this interface. The query is reached to the appropriate host. Again, this frame is copied by this switch and this switch. Now it reached that switch 2. Let's see what happens here. It simply forwards the frame to the inappropriate host. It won't forward through this because it is in blocking state. Now you can see my PC received the response from the destination MAC address. Now it found the destination MAC address and I forwarded the ICMP query. Now the ICMP response reached my host. I got one response. Now I can understand your question will be how this particular port is chosen to block, why all other ports are in forwarding state. Actually, what happens between these switches and how it is communicating among themselves to enable the blocking in one of the ports. I totally agree with your question. Let's jump into the concept. Spanning tree. Spanning tree protocol came in 1990s. It got evolved, and in our current network devices we are mostly using the RSTP, which is nothing but rapid spanning tree protocol. RSTP simply have some advantages over the spanning tree protocol, but in this first section I am going to explain the common things between the spanning tree protocol and the rapid spanning tree protocol. Before get to know how the spanning tree operates, I would recommend to take a note of these terms: roles, root switch, root port, designated port, and the state, forwarding, and blocking. To form the spanning tree, the switches have to communicate and they need to choose these three roles. First, let me start with root switch. The switches needs to communicate and they need to elect the root switch. Root switch can be only one. In order to participate in a root bridge election, like the normal election where the candidate is filing the nomination, here all the switches forward certain hello messages with some information. The hello messages is simply called bridge PDU messages. The information present in that message is called BID, bridge ID. Actually, the bridge ID is 8 bytes of length. The 6 byte mentions the interface MAC address and the 4 bytes represents the priority value. I'll give an example. The switch 1 is sending the BPDU to the other switches. While sending, it adds its priority value and its own MAC address, the interface MAC address, and forward the BPDU. The next switch receives the BPDU. The switch 3 compares its own priority value with the incoming priority value. If the incoming priority value is lesser than its own priority value, it simply stops advertising its BPDU and forwards the BPDU sent by the switch 1. So likewise, all the other switches compares the incoming BPDU with its own BPDU BIDs, and it takes the decision based on the priority. The less priority will take the preference, and the switch who is forwarding the BID with less priority value will be the root. In case two switches forwarding the BPDU with the same priority, in that case it will see the MAC address. A switch will read the MAC address. As you know, the MAC address is unique in all the devices, so it's a tiebreaker. So the lowest MAC ID will take the preference over the higher MAC address. This is how the switches elects its root switch. The BPDU messages are simply the STP messages which is communicated between the switches, which is different from our normal network traffic. Now in this network, the switch T2 is the root switch. I'll show. You can see here the switch T2 is the root, has the priority value, also the MAC address, and its bridge ID, its own bridge ID. So both the MAC address and both the priorities are same. This means this particular switch is the root. I'll show the same in switch 4. So in this, the root ID is different and its own bridge ID is different. So since it has the lowest MAC ID compared with this own MAC address, it chose this particular switch as a root. In this case, both the priority values are same, so it uses the MAC address as a tiebreaker. Now you may ask, what are the advantages are being a root switch? If a switch is elected as a root, the switch will keep all its interfaces in a forwarding state. So all these forwarding interfaces can receive and forward the frames. Next term is root port. To understand the root port, you need to know what is root cost. In a network, root switch can be only one switch, one device, but the root port, it is not like that. Every non-root switches should have at least one root port. So to elect the root port, it simply use the interface cost. So in a switch, every interface will have its own cost. Every switch will look like through which of its interfaces it can reach the root switch at minimum cost. So the interface which has the minimum root cost will be the root port. So that root port will always be in forwarding state. In this network, these three switches are non-root switches. So in switch 1, gigabit 0/1 interface is the root port because it has the lowest cost to reach the root switch. Whereas in switch 3, gigabit 0/2 interface is the root port. So it has the lowest cost to reach the switch 2. Also, in switch 4, gigabit Ethernet 0/1 is the root port. So it has the lowest cost to reach the switch 2. So you may ask, Parimal, what if the interface costs are same in a switch? In switch 3, assume the interface cost of the gigabit 0/1 and 0/2 are same. In that case, it will choose the root port with the MAC address of the switch 1 and switch 4. In this case, it will see the lowest MAC, in which path it has the lowest MAC address, it will choose that particular path to reach the root. So that particular port will be the root port. So in this case, this port is in forwarding state. Now let me show the interface cost in the switch. To see the spanning tree details, you can use the single command show spanning tree and you can give the question mark. It will give you the list of options. You can choose which option you want. In my all the switches, I am using the default VLAN 1, so I am choosing it. So it will show the interface status. I am in switch 3 now. FA0/1 is designated port. I will explain it in a moment. Gigabit 0/1 is alternate port. I will explain it this also. Gigabit 0/2 is the root port. As I told you, Gigabit 0/2 is the root port. It got elected due to this MAC address of switch 4. It has the lowest value compared to the switch 1's MAC address. So it kept in the forwarding state. Here we can see the interface cost. Each interface has its own cost. So based on the cost value, the root port will be decided. In this network, this switch elected as a root switch, and this particular port is root port, and this port is root port, which has the lowest cost to reach the root switch, the same as Gigabit 0/1, same as Gigabit 0/1, and this switch, it chose this path based on the lowest MAC address of switch 4. In this network, default the costs are same, so it chose the MAC address as a tiebreaker and it chose this particular port as a root port. Root port will always be forwarding the traffic, so it is in forwarding state. This is forwarding state. So this one is also forwarding state. Now this particular interface is connected to this root port, so it is also in forwarding state, but it is called designated port. This is what we mentioned as a third option. Designated port is almost same as root port. We are using interface cost to elect that particular designated port. In this case, since it is connected to the root port, it got elected as a designated port. Now we need to come to this link, this particular link. So in this link, any one of the interfaces need to be kept in the blocking state. The interfaces other than the interface of root switch, root ports and the designated ports will be in the blocking state. So in this case, in this link, Gigabit 0/2, this particular interface chosen as a designated port. So obviously the remaining interface is kept in the blocking state. So you may ask, how we chose this particular interface as designated port? Why don't we choose this particular port as a designated port? It is the right question. So how we elected the root port? The root port is nothing but the port which has the lowest cost to reach the root switch. In the same manner, we compared these two interfaces and which interface has the lowest cost to reach the root switch. Based on that, we elected the designated port. So in the designated port, this particular Gigabit 0/2 interface of the switch 1 has the lowest cost to reach the root switch. Hence it got elected as a designated port. So obviously the remaining port is this Gigabit 0/1, so it kept in the blocking state. Now you can forward frames from any host to any host. It simply used a single path to reach the destination. There won't be any switching loops because this particular port is blocking. Actually, it receives the frames through this port, but it won't process it. Also, it will not forward any sort of frames through this particular port. This is how the spanning tree elects the root switch, root port and the designated ports. But This is only the theoretical explanation. In our real-time environment, if any change happened in the network topology, assume, for example, if I add the additional link in my network, the topology completely changes. In that case, how the switches communicates each other and how it adapts to the new environment. So these are all the things we need to discuss. Also, in real time, we won't be having a single VLAN. There will be multiple VLANs and multiple loops. So let me explain those topics in my upcoming video, and stay tuned for my next video. If you like this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing my channel. Thank you guys.